Hello, everybody. Today I will be reciting an excerpt from Barack Obama's A More Perfect Union. We, the people, in order to form a more perfect union. 221 years ago, in a hall that still stands across the street, a group of men gathered and with these simple words launched America's improbable experiment in democracy. Farmers and scholars, statesmen and patriots who had traveled across an ocean to escape tyranny and persecution finally made real their Declaration of Independence at a Philadelphia convention that lasted through the spring of 1787. This was one of the tasks we set forth at the beginning of this campaign, to continue the long march of those who came before us, a march for a more just, more equal, more free, more caring, and more prosperous America. I chose to run for the presidency at this moment in history because I believe deeply that we cannot solve the challenges of our time unless we solve them together, unless we perfect our union by understanding that we may have different stories, but we hold common hopes, that we may not look the same or we may not have come from the same place, but we all want to move in the same direction towards a better future for our children and our grandchildren. This belief comes from my unyielding faith in the decency and the generosity of the American people. But it also comes from my own story. I have already condemned, in unequivocal terms, the statements of Reverend Wright that have caused such controversy. For some, nagging questions remain. Did I know him to be an occasionally fierce critic of American domestic and foreign policy? Of course. Did I ever hear him make remarks that could be considered controversial while I sat in church? Yes. Did I strongly disagree with many of his political views? Absolutely. Just as I am sure many of you have heard remarks from your pastors, priests, or rabbis with which you have strongly disagreed. But the truth is, that isn't all I know of the man. The man I met more than 20 years ago is a man who helped introduce me to my Christian faith. He is a man who spoke to me about our obligations to love one another, to care for the sick, and to lift up the poor. He is a man who served his country in the U.S. Marines and who has studied and lectured at some of the finest universities and seminaries in the country, and who for over 30 years led a church that serves the community by doing God's work here on earth, by housing the homeless, ministering to the needy, providing daycare services, and prison ministries and scholarships, and reaching out to those suffering from HIV/AIDS. I can no more disown him than I can disown the black community. I can no more disown him than I can my white grandmother, a woman who helped raise me, a woman who sacrificed again and again for me, a woman who loves me as much as she loves anything in this world. But a woman who once confessed her fear of black men who passed by her on the street, and who uttered racial or ethnic stereotypes that made me cringe. These people are a part of me, and they are a part of America, this country that I love. Thank you.